Look, if you give me the opportunity to play Soul Sisters, I'm gonna play Soul Sisters. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video, and today Nicole has asked me to play with Soul Sisters, an archetype near and dear to my own heart, as one of the original builds of this deck was running around right around the time when I started playing Magic. And this is Nicole's starting point, and she thought that it was going to need some pretty big edits still, but that she was on the right track. So in case you're not familiar with the overall archetype, we want to use various creatures, the Soul Sisters, that go and gain us life when a creature enters the battlefield under our control. And it used to be that you would max out on Soul Warden and Soul's Attendant in these deck lists, but Modern Horizons 3 gave us Guide of Souls, which is just an absolutely cracked Magic card, and makes it so that we maybe don't need to max out on all of these anymore. And I think it's kind of cool to revisit Ocelot Pride in a world. Let me phrase that. I think Ocelot Pride is normally a good card, but the more ways you have to gain life, the stronger Ocelot Pride is. And normally people are just playing Guide of Souls, Ocelot Pride, and then some number of Ajanis as your way to go and like have a solid package of white creatures. But if you can Ocelot Pride off Soul Warden as well, and then just get more ways to trigger that and get that spiraling out of control, it can be quite strong. And Essence Channeler is a card that I did not know existed until I saw Nicole's deck list. This is from Bloomburrow. It is a Bat Cleric 2/1. As long as you've lost life this turn, it has flying and vigilance. Whenever you gain life, you have to put a +1/+1 or Sorry, my lips are literally swollen as I am recording this right now. The chapstick incident from a week or so ago is not resolved yet. Anyway, whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on it. So this is another Ajani's Pridemate style card. But in what is just an amazing additional ability here, when it dies, put its counter on target creatures you control. So you can go and stack up 5-6 counters on this, and if someone kills it with something like a Fatal Push, those counters are just going somewhere else. And I think that is very, very, very strong. But I was asked to edit this deck list. And looking at this, I am really not convinced by Sorin of House Markov by Legacy standards. Extort is a cool mechanic, but it's a little bit slow here. A 1/4 stat line, even with lifelink, is not exciting. This is Karakusable, and the backside of this Planeswalker is, I think, not particularly strong either. And so I don't really think the Black Splash is worth it in this build. And the sideboard cards that we are seeing here don't really require black mana. These are, effectively colorless cards that you could occasionally cast with black mana in some weird spots. Now, I do like Nicole's sideboard tech of White Orchid Phantom as a way to kind of bridge the gap versus Eldrazi, when your life gain alone might not be enough to just go and beat them. So I like a lot of what's here. I am dubious on Heliod's Suncrowned. I have played a lot of this card in slower formats, like what was the arena format? Historic, I think. I played a lot of it in the Soul Sisters deck there, and it is a perfectly respectable card. But Legacy games are just so incredibly fast right now that I don't know that you want to be playing a 3-mana version of this when you have other 2-mana versions that do a similar thing. So I did some substantial edits to this one, despite thinking that the core of the deck was very good. And one of my big edits is going to be removing Chrome Mox from the deck list. I really like the idea of playing 2 1-drops of various natures in this deck. I think that is incredibly good. But I don't think you need Chrome Mox. I don't think this deck is good at drawing cards. You don't have something like the One Ring here to refuel. So if you go too hard on these sorts of effects that are causing you to go down cards, you might actually be putting yourself in a very disadvantageous position as the game goes on here. So here's what I came up with for our slightly edited version of the deck list. I took some cues from what we played previously in the blue-white aggro energy deck list, and I think Mockingbird Mockingbird fits in perfectly with Nicole's vision for this deck list. Mockingbird can be extra copies of your various Soul Sister effects. It can be extra Ocelot Prides. It can be extra copies of Essence Channeler. I think this is going to be so much stronger than the Sorin that the initial deck list had. And then I thought we needed more Soul Sister payoff in addition to Essence Channeler. So I went with Voice of the Blessed. Whenever you gain life, it gets a +1/+1 counter. If it has 4 or more counters, it picks up Flying and Vigilance. And if it has 10 or more counters, and you somehow haven't won the game already, it also gets Indestructible. I have moved the Heliod Sun Crowns to the sideboard. If we get paired against something like a Beans deck that is going to be relatively slow, I think Heliod Sun Crown will absolutely fucking crush it, but I don't know that I want it in my Game 1 deck list. I am going up to 4 copies of Fairy Macabre since I'm getting rid of Leylines, and I am replacing a couple of those with just more copies of Deafening Silence and Vexing Bauble so that I have more 1 mana plays versus combo. The only card that I want to be in this deck list that I couldn't fit in is I didn't find a way to make the 4th Solitude work. I think making the 4th Solitude work involves taking down a copy of this, which I don't necessarily think is a good thing. So about the only other questions that I have left here are how greedy should I get with utility lands? So I have a handful of fetch lands here because they fetch the Tundras and they matter for Essence Channeler. I can maybe play more fetch lands than what I am doing here. I could maybe play a couple of copies of something like Witch Enchanter or a Ganjo in the mana base. I do kind of want to have a rock solid mana base. There are Blood Moons and Harbinger of the Seas running around the format right now. I don't want to get got by those. And then I am trying Lotus Petal over Chrome Mox. I think a 1-turn burst of mana, play 2 1-drops on 1, or a 1-drop and a 2-drop on 2 is going to work out perfectly fine. And I'm really excited about this deck, and I hope we put some wins on the board with it. Folks, MTG Foundations is releasing. Should you find that you need some anime waifus here, please consider checking out my sponsor, TOAMagic.com. Tales of Adventure is an absolutely awesome store. Promo code ThrabenU will save you 5% on your order. Check out those Jumpstart cards. I think they have really cool art. I am intending on playing some, building some commander decks with some of the stuff that I cracked open here. With that being said, let's get rid of some of this excess lip balm here, and then let's battle. I'm immediately in love. Bam, bam, bam. And I think we are willing to fire off the blue on this immediately. This is fucking sweet. We're just gonna die on turn 1 to a combo deck, but like, it's whatever. We made cats. Essence Channeler can just... Oh! Alright. Everybody be cool. Everybody be cool. Holy shit. We'll go ahead and make an Essence Channeler. Alright, opponent is going to look for a Force of Will in response. This thing is about to get thick. And the second Lotus Petal was a great draw. Oh shit. We will send in for 2 points of initial damage. So this is 2 separate instances of life gain for our Essence Channeler. And then we're all in, baby. Make another Ocelot Pride. Make 3 more tokens. How are we doing for the City's Blessing? 3, 7, 8, 9. 1 more and I have the City's Blessing. Fuck yeah. Okay, they have to kill me this turn or they're dead on board. That's the good news. I'm going to be a little upset if I have like 11 power in play on turn 2 and lose. Alright, anything exciting here? Vexing Bauble, some personal tutor. I'm not going to pay attention to the rest of the pile from here. Like, opponents got me or they don't. Alright, there's an LED. So now my opponent can do something like cycle a Street Wraith or an Edge of Autumn, hold priority, crack LED to get blue. I do believe that we are dead, folks. There is a Consider, and then there's the Oracle. Oh, that's disappointing. Big sad. Alright, Deafening Silence and Vexing Bauble have some degree of text. I will probably board them in even though they're not the most exciting things in the world. Solitudes can very easily go here. Swords to Plowshares can very easily go. And I will probably play... Opponent says no fun allowed. Anyway, I'm probably going to play some White Orchid Phantoms. They're not like the most exciting things in the world, but I don't really know that I need, say, a Ajani Nakatl Pariah here. This is just something that triggers Soul Wardens multiple times. I can probably just go down on this, keep like the various Soul Wardens into these as something that hits hard and have an okay amount of disruption. Vexing Bauble is pretty mid. I think I'm still going to keep the hand. It's awkward. I kind of want to risk it and try to Vexing Bauble on turn 3, but that just might be an incredible degree of avarice that I should not actually do. And I'm just going to throw this down here. It can protect me against counterspells in addition to shutting off some amount of fast mana. It just may mean that my turn 2 is a little bit awkward, so we might do something like Guide of Souls plus Surveil rather than anything else. Alright, there's land drop. There is a Thoughtseize. That's going to do a lot in terms of weakening my hand. I think you take the Guide of Souls here, but I'm not 100% sure. I think the Guide of Souls is just the enabler for these life gain things afterwards. This can get very big, but it doesn't get very big unless I do something lifelinky in the first place. So I think I like taking Guide of Souls so that I can't rip something like Ocelot Pride and then just immediately get a bunch of value out of it. Now this is where a black this is where a black splash for Thoughtseize specifically might be interesting, but Thoughtseize was not something that was in Nicole's initial build. This is not my ideal draw. This is probably above average. I'm going to take that still. We'll throw a land drop into play. Attack for 1. I don't need to play my creature first. We're not gaining enough energy for that to matter here. Then we will attempt to take out that Underground Sea. Ooh! It was land destruction. I was not expecting that. Oh, I was expecting us to just go through a land there and make my opponent pull a basic swamp out of their deck. Maybe there wasn't a basic swamp. I didn't look that carefully at the deck in game 1. Or it could just be in hand, which might be more likely here. Alright, there's a land drop to clear. It's possible that I should cycle my Vexing Bauble here. Like, my opponent also has one, but then they can cycle it if they need it. I think I'm just going to leave it in play. We're sending in for 3, which is not all that much. Opponent's at 13, soon to be 12 after this fetch. Is not surveilling. Yeah, there's the cracking of Vexing Bauble. So we are not to natural black yet. I think I'm going to fetch to thin since I have 2 more fetch lands. Fetching to thin is not something that is necessarily going to make sense in this deck when we have Essence Channeler. But I think I'm going to go ahead and do it here. Hey, it's Essence Channeler. So this is only gaining 1 life. We'll attack for 3 again. Send it. Opponent goes to 10 and then 9. Then we'll Essence Channeler. We'll gain some life, which triggers Essence Channeler, and then I'll pass the turn. And we'll see if my opponent can present a win. Otherwise, I have 3, 4, 5, 6 damage showing. A creature should be lethal, right? Because it will add 2 damage. 1, well, it'll add more than that. I'll get the next energy for Guide of Souls. My opponent's thinking, that's not good. So that's 3rd black. This is the point where I can consider junking Vexing Bauble in an attempt to deal lethal damage to my opponent next turn. I think I'm into it. Oops, all planes. I have another fetch and I don't think it's relevant. All marginally thin. I should have done that before the draw. Alright, there is an Ocelot Pride. I'll go ahead and play that. There's Edge of Autumn. Okay, we got there. The game where I'm on the draw is definitely tougher, though. I don't think we are making any sideboarding changes, though. Since I went with the blue splash, I guess I could consider playing, like, the Consigned to Memories of the World. This is the Giada Plains from Foundations. I think this one is quite pretty. I have a fine hand, but it doesn't have any disruption. I think I need to keep something that has disruption or something that has a Lotus Petal. Or something that has a Lotus Petal. This is turn 1 Guide of Souls into Ocelot Pride, followed by Essence Channeler. And it has both my colors. I think this is aggressive enough that I do just keep this one. And we'll see if my opponent does something hyper broken. You know, Dark Ritual Doomsday is just allowed on turn 1. In my mind, the best card in my hand is Guide of Souls. Opponent agrees. Sure. Alright, no immediate Dark Ritual. That's nice. Nice. Yeah. 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 And cat. We're just going to always yield to that. So we've gained life, so we make a cat token that gains us life. This is going to go real hard if we're not just, dead to Doomsday. Okay, not dead yet. So there's a fetch. That was a Ponder Shuffle in the first place, so there's presumably going to be another spell played here. It is a Thoughtseize. That's fine. So this is okay. Yeah, no, that's totally fine for next turn. I will attack in for 3, and then I will gain some life, which gives me a cat, which gains me some life. This is going to go pretty hard. Definitely scared, though. Like, some portion of the time, my opponent can just Doomsday and win the game. It probably gets harder after another turn. We start running into some of the Street Wraith stuff being shut off. Ooh, okay, so there's Personal Tutor. My opponent gets Doomsday next turn. I Essence Channeler. I gain a life. I put a counter on this. Let's always yield to that. I go to combat. I swing in for 4. I'm going to gain a life from that, put a counter on this, make a cat, gain a life, put a counter on that. And now my opponent needs to win. They can cast Doomsday, go to 3, crack Vexing Bauble, draw a card. The one unknown card could be something like a Dark Ritual that would take some burden off of the mana. It might need to be like a Cycler of some kind in hand already. The one unknown is a land. So my opponent can Doomsday. One of their cards can be a land. How is my opponent winning? They're going to need a mana, and then they're going to need another card beyond that. Yeah, I did not think that was it. All right. Soul Sisters, baby. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, which is just the best place to keep your online deck lists. And one of the things that I love about them is that you can use it to keep track of what cards you do and don't have for a deck. So for example, in this deck list, I have all of the cards, so there are nice blue bubbles filled in here, and that's automatically ported over to your collection tab, where you can see exactly what cards you do and don't have. Okay, I don't think we have a real plan to win a game of Magic here. We're going to go ahead and mulligan. Oh god, this deck is so fucking good. Oh. Alright, turn 1, Guide of Souls into Ocelot Pride. Turn 2, Essence Channeler. And I throw back Mockingbird, excuse me. And I can even do a basic Plains on one, but I can't be wastelanded off of my line. Seems like my stuff is resolving as well. Hell yeah. Alright, yield to all energy generating abilities, and let's make some friends. This deck fucks. Essence Channeler is going to grow so fast. Like, trigger on entry, trigger on combat damage, trigger on end step from the cat token entering. Like, there is so much to like here. And a single removal spell doesn't really break up what I'm doing either. Lotus Petal was a very, very, very good decision. Ooh. Did Urza Saga pass? Grindstone. Okay, we could potentially get out goldfished by something like Painter. Alright. So land, we're gonna start scaling this up immediately. Always yield. Go to punchies. Send on in. Yes, I'll pay this. I want the +1/+1 counters on my lifelinker, I think, in case that's relevant. Get bigger, get cat, get bigger. I want a dead next turn. 5, 6, 7, 10, 11. Play this 12. No, but real close. If Ancient Tomb starts getting involved, it does start getting dicey for our opponent. And if I draw another creature, it's kind of whack. Ooh, the new enchantment frame is now on Magic Online, apparently. This looks different. I believe this is a new feature as of MTG Foundations. Okay, that is an Ancient Tomb. There is no Painter's Servant immediately. Nice, that's actually not bad. I will go Soul Warden. I will gain some additional life here, which will put some +1/+1 counters here. I'm going to lose a life so that I can get Flying and Vigilance for this attack, while using Meticulous Archive to surveil. That is probably fine as a draw. Do I care if I attack and lose Guide of Souls if I deal my opponent 6, 9, 10, 11 damage? No, I don't think I care. I guess it's like 11 versus 10 damage. I guess I can keep the creature around. I'm just going to gain extra life at end step instead. All right, you've got your 2/2 token. This is 7, 10, 11. Oh, right. First strike sometimes can cause some things to happen a little differently. Yeah, I missed lethal. That final thing did matter. I missed out on first strike, changing the timing of my card. I don't think it matters if Ancient Tomb can't tap for mana, but like it is very, very clearly and objectively a mistake. Mox Opal, Mountain, Goblin Engineer, which does not have haste. Yeah, so I didn't account for Soul Warden, causing Essence Channeler to grow mid-combat after my opponent made the Urza Saga token, which is why I thought I was going to be one more off than I was. Yeah. So I could have played that one a little tighter. Didn't matter, we just had overwhelming board presence. So the question here is, like, what don't we want? I think the game can go slow enough that Heliod Suncrowned can be reasonable. I think White Orchid Phantom as a way to disrupt opposing Urza Sagas is perfectly reasonable. I don't think I like Ajani Nakatl Pariah here. I think this is expendable. Then it becomes a little trickier. I might get rid of Mockingbird because it is counterable on the stack by Red Elemental Blasts and Pyroblasts. So if I junk these, I slow down my game a little bit. I can maybe just keep one, keep my curve looking real nice. I could try to mess around with the graveyard via Fairy Macabre. I'm not the most excited about that. I could do it. But I think I am going to try to just murder our opponent before the graveyard grinding matters all that much. I just got a really fucking cool email that I can't talk about yet. I am excited. So this hand is fine. It's very good as long as Guide of Souls isn't removed. Guide of Souls into Essence Channeler or Heliod is perfectly fine. I don't interact with my opponent, which is not the best for a game on the draw. And in some worlds, I should consider trying to hit something like a White Orchid Phantom or a Swords to Plowshares where I'm on the draw. This is a gas hand on the play. So the way that I lose this matchup is my opponent just roughly turn 3ing me without any interaction on my end. And this hand is setting me up for a loss against that. I think it is perfectly reasonable to mulligan this hand. I don't know that I'm going to. I'm also not sure why my opponent is playing so slowly. Like, we have not had many decisions in this game, and they are down 5 minutes of clock from where I'm at. And so I can't read whether or not they don't know what they are doing, or they are like playing at work or something like that, where they are like clearly distracted, or they're taking care of a kid or something. So like I can't read into my opponent's mulligan speed here as a sign of strength or weakness. Okay, my opponent ended up losing connection to the game and kept a 7-card hand here. I think I am going to keep this one. I think this offers a probably powerful goldfish speed. We could do some things faster with something like a Lotus Petal, but I just think there's a lot to like here. I'm going to go ahead and start off this game on a basic Plains. Cards like Blood Moon do exist. I don't really think that my opponent is going to be playing them in this matchup. I think their Urza Sagas probably matter more. But, you know, if I can hedge against it basically for free, it's probably correct to do so. A Welder is fine. Lotus Petal is fine. A Goblin Engineer is scarier. This can mean that something like an Ensnaring Bridge could be in my future, which I am not well equipped to deal with. Do I beat that? Like, do I beat Ensnaring Bridge? I thought about putting in Witch Enchanters. Yeah, we're cold to Ensnaring Bridge. That probably means that there should be about 2 Witch Enchanters in the deck. Or alternatively, some sort of Lauren or Disenchant effect somewhere. Oh, it's just Phyrexian Dragon Engine. I mean, that could have been so much worse then. So I will go ahead and play an Essence Channeler. Gain some life, put a +1/+1 counter here. This attack just bounces with this. There's not really a point in making that attack then. So, how scary do things end up getting for me? Fable of the Mirror Breaker. That's in theory fine. We are engineering to get the Phyrexian Dragon Engine. Can be welded in and out of play very frequently. Ooh, fuck. Don't know that I'm going to beat that. My opponent just gets to destroy a non-land permanent that I have each turn cycle. So spot removal would be real cool here. Flying and Vigilance. Flying and Vigilance. Let's crack this. Pick up a land. Play a new Guide of Souls. Play a new Essence Channeler. I will gain a life here. Means that I grow both of my creatures. I can send in for 4 points in the air. And that's a fine start, but Chaos Defiler probably eats me alive? We'll see. Alright, there's a mountain. Alright, there is a Blood Moon. So I could have fetched a second basic Plains. And it was probably correct to do so. So, Engineer, sacks Chaos Defiler. And this is an Enter or Dies. I think at this point I'm going to lose this plus this and not have a lot of gas afterwards. I think I am willing to just concede to this fair engine. I think that outdoes me here. I don't think I'm going to... I don't know, maybe I need to play the fairies. Like, maybe since I can't remove artifacts, I need some degree of interaction versus the graveyard. But, like, I do just want to reduce my opponent's life total to 0. And... like, the fastest way that I goldfish is just keeping extra creatures. Like, it probably costs me, like, Mockingjay, Heliod, or, like, Mockingjay, 1 Soul Sister, 1 White Orchid Phantom or something in order to make a couple of fairies happen. Okay. I need a second land in order for this hand to do its thing. I don't think I would keep this on 7. I would probably risk this on 6, though. This hand is great. I'll keep this one. I'll probably just throw back the Caracas on the very off chance that I were to get Blood Mooned on turn 1. I do want access to white for my secondary creature here. Basic Mountain into Goblin Welder. I am probably just not going to fuck around with Goblin Welder this game. Removing Goblin Welder means that my cat tokens are just going to be able to get through in the future. And this gives my opponent a chance to play like a turn 2 Urza's Saga that I can remove via a White Orchid Phantom before I drop that. Yeah, like turning that into a regular land is great. Goblin Engineer resolves. Ooh, it is Phyrexian Devourer, which is potentially meaning that Agatha's Soul Cauldron combo is in my future. So in case you're not familiar with that one, the long and short of it is that my opponent can create an infinite-sized creature by exiling a bunch of cards from the top of their library. The 1/2 body is good versus my Ocelot Pride, even with first strike here. And then at end of turn, we'll go ahead and Surveil with Meticulous Archive. Essence Channeler is fine. Actually, is it? I'm not going to be gaining life off of this. That's probably not fine. A land is certainly worse than my previous draw. I don't think I'm going to get cute and try to attack into this or anything to get additional value. I think I'm just going to take out the Ancient Tomb and hold my bonus creatures back. And we'll pass the turn. We're slightly stalled out as of right now. A lot of Painter decks right now are playing like 2 or 3 Agatha's Soul Cauldrons. It is a perfectly reasonable combo card that allows our opponent to reuse creatures like Goblin Engineer while also doubling as Graveyard Hate for Blue-Black Reanimator, which is the most popular and probably best deck in the format. Okay, yeah, so there is the Agatha's Soul Cauldron. So my opponent can exile their Phyrexian Devourer to generate a infinite size, well, air quotes, infinite size creature. It can certainly deal at least 19 points of combat damage to me. Yeah, so my opponent's not going to attack. I still have a flying creature that can attack, and I will do so with that. Bring my opponent to 16. I think we're going to do some funky deck thinning here. I'm just going to search out a Tundra, tap a Tundra for white, play a white Orchid Phantom, and then just blow up my own Tundra to turn it into a tapped basic plains. All right, so opponent is putting a +1/+1 counter on Goblin Engineer. So if this attacks, it absolutely has to be blocked. My opponent can't get through the cat tokens yet, so that is at least good. Got a couple of things working in our favor. Number one, we have a bunch of disposable creatures. Number two, my opponent is low on time. Number three, if they attack with this, I just get to immediately replace the body. Ooh, this is kind of fucked, though. So, another land drop means that I die. This would be a great time to top deck a Solitude or Swords to Plowshares or whatever. Soul Warden is not what I am looking for. There is a creature card in graveyard, so my opponent can put a +1/+1 counter on Painter's Servant here. I can attack for 4 in the air, and then I still have a couple of creatures held back for if my opponent tries to force damage through. I can maybe get killed by something like a Fury, but I think if I don't attack, I am incredibly unlikely to win this game versus my opponent's just chances of randomly drawing a mana source that kills me. All right, so there's the Agatha's Soul Cauldron activation on a creature, put a counter on Painter's Servant. F. So that is the land that is necessary to kill me. And my opponent does indeed go for it. I don't have a way to kill them in my upkeep, so we are unfortunately dead. GG's. Gosh, this deck is so incredibly sweet. The turn 1 Ocelot Pride, Mockingbird, turn 2 Essence Channeler. Goblin Lackey. Ooh! Ooh! I'll shut up if my opponent hits me with a Fury on turn 1. Or I guess it'll be their turn 2. In respective Wasteland, we're going to grab a basic Plains here. Ocelot Pride into Mockingbird. We'll make our Ocelot Pride instead of a Goblin Lackey. Might be a controversial pick, but I think I'm down with it. So hopefully the ground is clear for these to get in next turn. Multiple triggers on an Essence Channeler would be hot. Aether Vial turn 2. Second Goblin Lackey. Luckily, we are just going to have a goddamn cat parade over here, so that hopefully doesn't matter. So much Caracas. We're going to play that Essence Channeler. I am fine sending in with the cats. We're going to gain 2 instances of life, and then trigger Ocelot Pride at end of turn, or 2 more cats. Now, these would trade evenly with Goblin Lackeys, but, you know, since I can just replace the cats very easily, that is not something that bothers me. Ooh, yeah. Yeah. So I think I'm going to drop Voice of the Blessed this turn. I think I'm going to be a little conservative with the cats here, and not go ham trying to get a couple more small points of damage in. Oh, yeah. Let's scale up these creatures. There we go. So then end step, Ocelot Pride, then City's Blessing, then double cat token. And it should just be very easy to kill my opponent from here next turn. Even counting missing the 2 points of damage this turn. Like, I've got 10 points of power with the cats alone, not counting either one of my large creatures. Hell yeah. I'm not sure that I'm going to sideboard much here. Iliad has some text, White Orchid Phantom has some text. I'm not really interested in the rest. I think I like Ajani's multiple bodies here. It's recurable via Caracas if I need to like do some chump blocking early and then re-trigger Soul Wardens and Soul Attendants later on. There is some concern that sideboard cards such as Fury can really be a beating here, and that could be a reason to go for Heliod. If I anticipate that my opponent is going to do some red elemental blast stuff, I could board out Mockingbirds and just try to blank those cards. I think I'm just going to resubmit the game 1 deck list, and if I see red elemental blasts, I can make some adjustments from there. This is a perfectly reasonable hand that might be a little awkward against a turn 1 Goblin Lackey. Mountain Prospector is fine. Now, the Soul's Attendant specifically is any other creature, so my opponent's stuff will gain me life as well. I do not remember its name, but I believe that there is a new playable goblin from Jumpstart. I believe it is some sort of pseudo Mog War Marshal thing. Kirk Prospector is sending in. I am not interested in trading for that creature. My Soul's Attendant is too valuable with both of these in hand as of right now. Ooh, no additional lands from my opponent. There's no difference for Fury, right? 4 damage. This will be a 3. This will be a 1. Yeah, there's no difference for Fury immediately. And Fury is something that could have made my opponent's hand keepable if they kept a 1-lander. I think I'm going to play this one and save the Voice of the Blessed for a minute later. Yield to that. And spike in for 1 point of damage. If my opponent doesn't Fury me this turn, I probably just run away with this game. It really feels like it has to be Fury for that hand to have been keepable with only a single land. Alright, it is the Horde Master. So this is going to gain me life. Oh fuck, I didn't count... Let's see, active player, non-active player. No, it should have been Voice of the Blessed then. Because with Voice of the Blessed, I would gain the life from the Fury. Yeah, no, I fucked up. It should have been Voice of the Blessed. That's my bad. Now, from here, it's unlikely to matter. From here, I probably just run over my opponent. Ooh. This is everyone. This is everyone with flying, but there's more flexibility on this. Let's save Mockingbird. So let's go Soul Warden. Oh, I guess I could have given this flying and vigilance this turn. Voice or Essence Channeler? I think Essence Channeler, so I guaranteed connect next turn. So then Essence Channeler will gain a bunch of life here, which is going to result in a bunch of counters in a very, very fun way for me. Triggers. Munchies. 7. And then I haven't mathed it out, but it feels like next turn is just going to be lethal in the air with the 2 Essence Channelers. Oh yeah, it's already 11. Fuck yeah. I'll just Goldfish turn 4. Now, there are some pseudo-combo lines that can happen with this card, and like a Mog War Marshal that could be kind of scary. Oh, there's another Skirk Prospector. Probably not what my opponent is looking for. I honestly don't know what they're looking for. Like Muxus? Muxus into double Soul Warden, double Essence Channeler, though, is like horrifying. My opponent has fetched, so now this mana is stuck in that pool, so they're committed to using it now. Goblin Ringleader. Trigger. They're so big. They are so very, very big. Ringleader does not reveal all that good of cards. The Prospector can convert these into mana. My opponent can have 2 more mana. The Call Essence Channeler was an insane find. This card is very, very, very good. I also like the art on it for what it's worth. Alright. So, we're going to go ahead and fetch. That gives these flying and vigilance. I think another Essence Channeler is fine. I'm already just gaining so much life here and putting so many counters on things. I'm going to let the stack clear. I wanted to see how big they were going to get. GG's. All right, I'm keeping a hand that is ever so slightly a gamble here. This is going to start out really strong with Guide of Souls into Guide of Souls. But after that, I am going to need either a blue mana or another creature to kind of make the hand fully pop off. I think it's good enough to keep when I'm on the play, but hold on. Let's not Dark Ritual Doomsday. Fuck! Damn it. All right, let's skim this real quick. So my opponent is a more mid-range version than our previous opponent, meaning that they are going to have things like Psychic Frog in here, and Tamiyo. Doing a quick skim for basic lands. I'm not seeing them. I do not have much agency here. Like, I get to play another Guide of Souls. Don't have the follow-up mana for Mockingbird, unfortunately. And we drew another Swords to Plowshares, which is a dead card. This is a time where if our opponent doesn't immediately have the Doomsday, like, we have double Swords to Plowshares for Psychic Frogs and Tamiyos. But they did have the Doomsday, which I think just means mathematically that I am never going to go and beat them here. I just can't race quickly enough. So there is a Street Wraith, land, Lotus Petal. 1 card remains in library. This is the illusion of hope, I imagine. I imagine there's just a counterspell here if my opponent went for this line, or another way to draw a card. Yeah, Force of Will blue card as the remaining 2 cards, unfortunately. Dead. And there was a basic island, it was just in hand. So like before, Deafening Silence and Vexing Bauble have some small amount of text. White Orchid Phantom is playable. Unlike last time, though, our Swords to Plowshares and Solitudes are more reasonable. I think I'm going to get rid of Solitude, get rid of Ajani. That is going to get me most of this stuff. And previously, I was going down Swords to Plowshares, which I can't do here. So given that, what do I want to do? I could just do something like this and make myself less reliant on my creatures that are in play. I think that's fine. This also means that I don't need blue mana as much. I could potentially even go deeper with the removal, keeping 1 Solitude over a Mockingjay. Psychic Frog is pretty good at stalling out some of this stuff. Yeah, I might do that. I'm not, like, super excited to pitch remove to kill a Psychic Frog, but it might just be a thing that I have to do. Like, keeping Solitude while boarding and Vexing Bauble is also just slightly awkward. Okay, so how into the cat are we? This is just land, Soul Warden, Lotus Petal, Ocelot Pride, immediately start going wide. I think if I am going to mulligan hands like this, I just should not be playing this deck. Like, I think it is very clear that the Lotus Petal situations are kind of cracked. My hand is considerably worse if Ocelot Pride right now eats a removal spell, a counter spell. But as long as I make the initial token here, I think I do a pretty good job of starting to go wide. Got a weird lag burst here. And then we'll make our cat at end of turn, which will gain us some more life. We have 3 power in play on turn 1, and that is going to continue to spiral. Opponent has Lotus Petal? Fuck! Come on! Oh, that's also not good. So this is the sort of pivot plan that these decks sometimes have after post-sideboard games. So there's already an artifact in there, so that's not actually growing this creature, but the Ponder will. I have tons of good draws here. Basic Plains, unfortunately, is not one of them, though. So let's always yes to this, always yield to this. And we're still going to work on going wide of this creature. I am going to get a relatively respectable amount of life and a decent number of creatures from this. Oh, and can cantrip. This is fine. So now that I know for sure that these are there, I probably will keep additional copies of Solitude if we go into further games. Prismatic ending on the Ocelot Pride. That's not great for me. I will probably just chump here, but I am fully reliant on the top of the deck to do cool things. White Orchid Phantom is not overly exciting. I'll send in for 2 points of damage. Put my opponent to 21. Drop the Phantom. I think I care about black for Doomsday more than I care about white for removal right now. My current creatures are not particularly strong. Alright, and there is the basic island that we saw before. Ponder is fine. Very fast shuffle. I'm not going to let my opponent get extra cards here. Alright, there is black mana again. Voice of the Blessed is fantastic. This is exactly the sort of thing that I do want to see here. Boo. So now it starts to get a little more dubious. I think I don't want this thing connecting. I think I need to keep these. I think I'm probably going to let White Orchid Phantom go this turn. 22. Like, sometimes this creature just misses and doesn't give my opponent food. But if they get a Psychic Frog or something like that, that gives them a secondary body on board, I think it is just fully disastrous for me. I think that should plus. Swords is great. So let's Swords this. Opponent has 1 card, so this should be resolving. They have a whopping 32 life. Hopefully, I just draw a creature that scales with life, and I'm not actually all that worried about this stuff. Alright, Teferi is just plussing. I'm not very good at taking this off of the board right now. This does not help my cause. I'm still going to send in at it because I will take 1 loyalty off of it. But, you know, we're probably going to be in a stalemate regarding this card. Yep. Yeah. Always yield to that. Now I'm just going to lazily do this. A White Orchid Phantom is, I don't think, good enough against all of this stuff. Well, let's just send that to the yard, and my opponent can make their clue. Okay. This is the sort of thing that I need to get going. So we're going to scale it up twice immediately, generating a 4/3 body. I think my opponent's favored here. I think they Teferi bounce my Essence Channeler. They'll crack a clue after attacking with both of their creatures, and then they can transform so that this attack does not kill Teferi. And I think I need both of these creatures. Whopping 5 damage here. Fuck. That's so bad. With a second one of those coming down, I think I'm going to probably take my draw step and concede. Okay, they are going to go with the Tamiyo this turn. But, like, I know the other one is coming. Oh, fuck. It happens now. Oh, my God. Derp. Cracking both Lotus Petals to do it. Swords to Plowshares off the top would be pretty cool. Nope. Do this. Gain some life. Do this. And we're going to grow our creature quite a bit. But I just don't think this matters. Like, Tamiyo minuses, gets a Prismatic Ending, or Swords to Plowshares, removes this creature. Then there's 2, 5, 6 creatures coming in at my life total. I think I make my opponent do it, but I think once they Tamiyo minus, I'm just out of here. Fairy plus. Yeah, Tamiyo minus on swords, which is a disaster. I'll take 10 here. And these triggers are bad. Yeah, there's a Tamiyo or a Psychic Frog. And then a miss. Yeah, so my opponent has Psychic Frog, Goif, Goif. I think this next draw is the last one I'm going to take before I just call it. We just got severely out mid-ranged. Yeah, with that draw, I think we can tap out. We got. Okay. This hand doesn't do anything. This is going to be just an auto mulligan here. This hand is going to be very strong. So it's turn 1 Guide of Souls into turn 2 Essence Channeler or Voice of the Blessed, probably. Thinking about my turn 3, if I draw another land, I can do one of these plus Mockingbird, which is probably fine. I think I'm going to get rid of the Ajani. It's like totally fine to double trigger Guide of Souls, but I don't think that's what the game is about right now. I don't care what you are as long as you aren't Doomsday. Tired of Doomsday. Okay, there is the third land. Fantastic. So land drop into Guide of Souls. Second land, gonna frog me. You're gonna frog me. How many counters is it for flying? 4. That probably means that I should start this one immediately. So let's drop another one of these and then Voice of the Blessed. I think a decent port. Oh shit! Just resolved. That's great. So that means we start scaling up immediately. No attack versus Psychic Frog here. That just doesn't make sense. And then next turn, hopefully I go wild with just Mockingbird into Essence Channeler. All right, well, I get 1 card next turn. Oh, I thought I was losing Essence Channeler there. I don't have to lose Essence Channeler if my opponent just has like a Fatal Push or whatever for Guide of Souls. All right, opponent unwilling to attack with Psychic Frog. This is a great draw. So let's start with a Soul Warden. Gain my life, which puts a counter here. And then we'll shove the other card into Daze. My stuff last turn didn't get dazed. I eat a Force of Will here. So my opponent's Psychic Frog flies some portion of the time on the next turn. I don't think I'm going to hold this back. I think I'm just going to go ahead and shove an attack in here for 4. Now, any creature will give me Flying and Vigilance, and the Vigilance is a really, really big deal. Imagine that my opponent is going to get another Undercity Sewers at end of turn. There's the fetch. Basic Swamp. All right, so there's the frog going in. Not going to double block or anything here. Opponent not removing cards from their graveyard to make it fly. And then doing some cantripping. Some portion of the time next turn, I just end up shutting them off of Reanimate. This is not one of those times, unfortunately. Solitude is a particularly terrible draw there. Like, I'm perfectly happy with it as of the following turn. Hopefully Orcish Bailmasters doesn't happen. That would be real bad here. Opponent drops to 6. Definitely a little bit worried. Like, if my opponent is not playing removal spells and is not countering my stuff, that probably means that they have portions of a combo prepared that they aren't quite ready for. Yeah. and they are just looking for the other portion of it. So the Solitude is just fully stuck in my hand here, so I can't use that to answer Archon of Cruelty. So Soul Warden does trigger. I will put another counter on my creature. Now, with a little bit of luck, I can just attack through this Archon of Cruelty. I think I get rid of Guide of Souls here over Soul Warden. Oh, wait, no. Fuck, I should have surveilled first. The 1 energy might matter for being able to attack into Voice of the Blessed here. I'm hoping my opponent attacks with Psychic Frog. I do not think that they should. Fuck, why are you good, opponent? You're supposed to be simple memes, not complex nuance memes. Well played. I think that is very, very, very strong holding that back. Lotus Petal, no. All right, please, any creature. Damn it. What a disaster. Okay. I don't have the energy to give this counters, so I just have to chill. Opponent says, too bad I'm playing the scum deck in front of thousands of people. Too bad indeed. GG's. So it didn't matter this time, but I think holding back this Psychic Frog attack so that my opponent can give this flying and block this creature is like a game-winning play that a lot of people can miss. Like, if they go in trying to get this extra card, and then I grow this to a 6/6, which would have been lethal, or like otherwise force an Archon block, I think that is a very scary position to be in. All right, so I'll probably go ahead and play fairies. My go-to plan has just been cutting these every round. I believe that they fully should be in the deck, but like when we are trying to bring in extra cards, it's definitely a little bit hard to keep them in the deck. Then I might just trim one of these. Could be one Mockingbird. Mockingbird can be my own Psychic Frog sometimes. Yeah, I can just be one of these. This is an incredible hand if I do not get wastelanded, and if I like draw another land in particular, it really, really, really pops off. I think I am willing to risk it for the biscuit here. I am not sure what creature I lead on. I think it's Ocelot Pride. If one of these eats a counterspell, then I can still have access to both of these, whereas if like my Soul's Attendant gets countered, then I no longer have access to this effect. All right, we're chilling. That is an interesting draw. So we're going to go ahead and attempt to deal combat damage here. We succeed. Then I will drop another cat. That's good enough to get a response. It's just a surveil. Give me a break. Give me a break. Randomly surveil the Atraxa. Fuck. All right. Cannot pay. I will get a bonus cat at end step. Hopefully my opponent just like goes for reanimate and I get a like 3-time walk. All right, cool. It did happen. So let's nuke Atraxa, and I'm probably not putting instants into the graveyard. Let's take that out. Like I could take out. Ooh, nice. Is it Essence Channeler here? I think it's Essence Channeler here just for raw mana efficiency. We'll gain life on the Ocelot Pride attack. Fuck. I mean, if my opponent isn't playing things that I'm scared of, I guess this is fine. Like, this is 2, then 3, then 4 damage, and so forth. All right, there is that Surveil land again. Hit the Archon. Hit the Archon, I dare you. Coward. All right. I don't super want that land drop. I'm obviously taking it. I don't have any choice there. But we want another dude at this point. Now, I can gain a fair amount of life here. With all these always yes, always yield. I have a Swords to Plowshares for something like a Psychic Frog that comes down. I have a Fairy for another reanimation effect. I'm doing pretty well. We're out of that, like, one-lander danger zone at this point. There are some things like Orcish Bowmasters that can come out and still just be a massive headache. But let's just hope that that's not what that represents. I am into this. I am into this. I think I will go ahead and play it pre-combat as well. To just guarantee that I, well, air quotes guarantee that I gain this extra life. All right, cool. Shove. Okay, no blocks. Opponent's at 8, and then we do this whole Ocelot Pride thing. All right, so now we are at the City's Blessing, which means that we get a shit ton of cats, and it is a goddamn cat parade out here. Meow, meow. And in these instances where you do get the City's Blessing, that's where the Ajani can just be downright disgusting. There's an Archon of Cruelty. There is a Reanimate. There is a second Fairy Macabre. We'll take that out. Now, I guess that would have just killed my opponent, but I would like to kill them my own way. I made all these cats. They said, oh man, I wanted to kill me first. Never. Not even giving me the satisfaction of the combat step. And I think I am overall happy with the board plan here. Doesn't seem like my opponent is changing anything either. This is a fine hand that I don't think I'm going to keep on the draw. I think I want some inner action. Yeah. Yep. Please let the top card be a land. These Lotus Petals are only going to go so far. Oh, fuck, now they get to see my shame. His hand is very, very noticeably worse without Ocelot Pride. If my opponent is doing fair stuff, and very noticeably worse versus the combo stuff if my opponent takes the Fairy Macabre. Whatever I do doesn't get dazed here. That's at least the good news. Bad news is, you know, Entomb Reanimate can just happen next turn. I think there's a chance my opponent has Force of Will. They did pause with the Ocelot Pride on the stack. Ugh. Basic Swamp? Basic Swamp, no other land? You're telling me there's a chance? Alright, so do I want to play Soul Warden with Lotus Petal? I immediately trigger off Ocelot Pride. I'm not really going anywhere with that. I don't think I play this. I think I would rather dump a Voice of the Blessed into play if I draw a land. And my opponent might just lose this one for playing around Wasteland. Fuck yeah. Alright, so fetch. I have 4 white cards in my entire deck, and it is an absolute disaster if I'm 4 blue cards. I think it's a disaster if I'm wastelanded, so I think we are just going to throw down Voice of the Blessed here. Alright, it's in play. Sending in. A Fatal Push here is really strong. Does not happen. I get to start scaling up my stuff, and then next turn I get Soul Warden, Ocelot Pride, Voice of the Blessed scaling. Is there Entomb? There is Entomb. It is an Archon of Cruelty, which I can currently answer via Solitude without actually caring that much. I wonder if this was supposed to be Atraxa. Yeah. It doesn't matter if there is a Force of Will here. So Solitude, pitch the Soul Warden. Okay, there is a Force of Will. Pitching Psychic Frog. I will lose a cat. That Voice of the Blessed does not do me any good. My attacks are not valid. I'm unfortunately passing the turn here. My opponent can attack. I'll lose a cat token. I lose the Voice of the Blessed. I've got a chance to draw a Swords to Plowshares to get out of this. But it is 1 draw step. That is a basic Plains. I'm going to get attacked for 9. Oh, I'm not dead though, because I will gain 1 life here. I will go to 1. Oh, come on! I would like to call bullshit that my opponent won off Basic Swamp as their only land for the majority of that game. So that's an unfortunate end to this league, but honestly, this deck felt quite good. Alright, so how do we feel about this one? Honestly, this was pretty great. You can maybe adjust some of the ratios a little bit still. So one of the things that we discovered is that we don't have an out to something like an Ensnaring Bridge. There should probably be some sort of disenchant in the 75 somewhere. I think the idea of 2 Witch Enchanters is probably okay. I don't think you can go too crazy with utility lands in the deck list. I don't think you can go down the Cavernous Souls routes. You have Spirit Clerics, you have Cat Warriors. There is a decent amount of creature variety, so I don't think you get to go crazy with Caverns. I think you can maybe play 2 or 3 utility lands without really feeling it in your mana base too much. Keep in mind, we did get Blood Mooned in 1 round, and we do have white cards in our deck, so that's something to be aware of. I don't think we need or want a basic island in the deck list. That kind of feels unnecessary. The Heliod's didn't do anything in this league. I do believe that I boarded them in once or twice. I am happy with them still being there. If we can't find room for disenchant slots, I think this is reasonable. I liked the White Orchid Phantoms. I liked the various pieces of combo hate that I have. You can maybe get a little bit of experience with this, get some reps in and get a feel for some of these ratios. I have 9 Soul Warden effects. Is that the correct number? Can it just be 8? It historically has been 8, but now we have the ability to play more without going into another color or playing one of the weaker ones. You can maybe mess with the numbers of Ajanis and Solitudes. I think that's reasonable as well. Yeah, overall, I'm gonna give this one a big thumbs up, and I think on average we would probably do better than 2-3 playing this deck list. Folks, should you need any cards, please consider checking out my sponsor, TOAMagic.com. Promo code ThrabenU will save you a little bit on your order when you buy your Mockingbirds or whatever, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. See ya!